Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, our poet writes, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows, and you see the size of the cloth. Some of you know that we Unitarian-Universalist ministers have to jump through a myriad of fiery hoops to reach ordination in our faith. One of these hoops requires sitting before the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. We call it the MFC, which is an amalgam of seasoned UU ministers and wonderful leaders who are appointed by the UU Association's Board of Trustees. And one of their great charges, among many, is to discern if candidates for ministry are indeed really ready for ministry, right? And so when you get your big appointment with the MFC, you sit before them and you answer a lot of questions, and most of them have to do with all the personal materials that you've put in their hands beforehand, your story or evaluations from your internship site, all kinds of materials, usually about 150 pages of them. And many of those questions have to do with all of that. But there are many questions that are broader and could be asked of any minister, no matter what your story is, that is in formation. And so most of us in preparation, we form study groups and prepare for this big conversation, and we ruminate on what in the world our responses would be to some of these big questions. And across the board, in all the study groups and private Facebook groups and workshops that I participated when I was preparing for that big moment, the question that held the most dread was, what is your theology of suffering? Cue bum 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 or some organ music or something. In other words, how do you explain it? How do you find meaning in it? And the tricky part about Unitarian Universalism is that we don't look to one sacred text for guidance in this, right? It would be a lot easier for us ministers and us all to simply be pointed to some gospel that summed it up well, right? Jesus says, period, end stop, or so saith the Lord. Done, check. I have a feeling my interfaith colleagues would disagree with me on that, but still, it just seems easier with one text. We, however, are people who have a range of thoughts on this. Some of us find suffering and great sorrow to all be random and meaningless. Others feel that God meets us in our moments of need, maybe even has a plan for us. Most of us want to hide under the covers when it comes to questions like this. No thanks, pass. You can take your conversations on theologies of suffering and sorrow elsewhere, please and thanks. This I know for sure. I will never be a pastor that stands up here and prescribes a theology that will make you make sense of the completely incomprehensible. The honest answer is, how can any of us really know how to make sense of tragic loss and the atrocities of injustice and evil? My honest response to this is simply, I don't know. And I can't make sense of it. Nor do I have a snappy platitude that makes human suffering or the state of the world palatable or easy. That was my answer when I sat before the MFC, by the way. What I do know, however, is that across millennia, we wondrous seeking humans have been wrestling with this question of suffering. There is not one religion that has gripped the hearts of people, spoken to the needs of its time, and spread like wildfire across time when all was well. They have all been forged up and out of a desperation for meaning in the face of not wellness. How they have asked and sung and prayed and painted, how might we make sense of this suffering we all feel and know, all of us? How might we make sense of this injustice? So we have a universal truth here. We humans all know suffering. We always have and we always will. The great singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen is one of my favorites. Yeah. And he sings the songs of lament, and he sings them beautifully. He sings of cracks in everything and broken hallelujahs. And in the same breath sings of a light that pierces through the cracks and wholly broken hallelujahs. Ring the bells that still can ring, he sings. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And I've thought a lot about this in my life. The cracks that let light in. The broken places in our lives and in this world. And while I have never been able to make much sense of this stuff, I know that beauty and light, hope and resilience is all about the sanctity and healing power of human connection in the muck and mire. Worldwide, we humans have cultivated grief groups, addiction recovery meetings, trauma survivor groups, affinity groups for those holding marginalized identities, Me Too consortiums, and all of them center and support the utterly unbearable. We are in this together is at the heart of these gatherings, and this saves lives, literally saves lives. And this saving, this solidarity, this proximity to one another's raw struggle, it is a thing of indescribable beauty. Awful that we have to arrive there in that state around something that indescribable, and yet, the solidarity is a thing of indescribable beauty. The beauty of togetherness in the face of brokenness. I know this to be true. I have experienced this. Have you? Yeah. We know this. God, you feel this at memorial services too, right? The beauty of togetherness in the face of brokenness. And I sense our poet today, the great Naomi Shihab Nye, knows this well too, that in the depths of our sorrow, it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it's I you have been looking for, and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. And honestly, I don't know if everything's going to be okay. I don't know how to make sense of the brokenness that abounds every day from those wretched news headlines or in our complicated lives and families. I don't. But I do know that in times of trouble, when all seems lost, we best get with kind people who know how to say, me too, or I am so sorry, or we got this and we got you. even know how to make us laugh or dance or sing. What a thing of beauty that is. We best make our way to places where caring people wake up at the crack of dawn on Mother's Day to walk for peace, who light candles for you and this world, who end the endless text or email threads with "I love you and appreciate you" with lots and lots of heart emojis. And I tell you, with all the I don't knows that I throw out from this pulpit at you, I do know that we are these people. We are, and you are. My prayer is that you know this, you hold tight to this, and that especially that you know that you can ask for this kindness here, and that you have this kindness to give here, and that it does, and it will save lives. No small thing. You do not need to be unbroken, uncracked, or highly polished to be loved here, to be worthy of kindness here. We got this, and we got you. It's everything. And so I close by saying I love you and I appreciate you with lots of heart emojis.